Hello and welcome to WomanVision TV. I'm your host, Nadia Giordana. My guest today, Bonnie Watkins, has been an active feminist for over 40 years. She's a past president, director of the Minnesota Women's Consortium. She's been Minnesota's pay equity coordinator in the Department of Employee Relations. And she's the co-author of In the Company of Women, published by the Minnesota State Historical Society Press, and a lot of other things. Let's go talk to her and see what she's up to now. Thanks for coming today. I'm glad you could make it.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you and I have worked together on and off for a year and a half, maybe even longer than that, on some TV projects and some things over at SPNN, but we never have time to talk to each other and talk about some of the projects and things that we're doing on our own. And you have a TV documentary project you're working on that I think, tell me if the title is right or if it's a working title or if it's going to change, Unfinished Business, Future of the American Women's Movement.
Very good, perfect.
Good. Tell me what that's all about.
Well, it's really an outgrowth of my 40 years as an active feminist, some professional paid work and a lot of volunteer work, which continues. And I'm at a time in my life where I kind of want to assess, have there been lessons learned? Obviously there's been progress made, but also obvious to me there is much unfinished business, that women still don't have equality in so many ways.
That's why the title is so good.
Thank you. And it's all over the place. There's a million things out there called unfinished business, but the second part is really important to me, the future of the American women's movement, because really the question I'm going around interviewing people and asking is, where are we going from here? How are we really going to meet those dreams that women have? And that has really caught a lot of people's attention, because there's a lot of wonderful history programs out there and a lot of resting on our laurels of the great successes we've had, but where are we going from here, I think, is something that interests a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. And why in general, or why overall, is this needed now at this point in time?
Well,
oh, and I wanted to say, some people say the women's movement is dead.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
Or at least boring.
Yeah.
It wasn't that last millennium.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Well, and in fact, the statistics really show we've stagnated about the last 10 years. There's been enormous progress, going back to the 1970s, where it seemed like it was in the water and new organizations were being formed and laws were being passed, and terms like sexual harassment were being coined. The issue I followed most closely is women's pay, women's earnings, and that really,
that's an important one.
Back in the 70s, you might remember, we used to talk about 59 cents on the dollar is what women earned then. We have made progress, but that really, nationally, that number is 77 cents now. Okay. So, you know, we're earning 3/4 of what men earn. That's way terrible.
Doing the same work.
Exactly, and that has hardly changed over the past 10 years. Okay. So that's, you know, number one need, I think, is to just re-energize, revitalize, say this is an issue. The other issue that, I mean, there's a million of them, and I try to talk about strategies rather than issues, but the other thing is the violence against women. That's still, you know, it flares up, you hear some atrocity in the news, but then it goes away again. So, you know, the rates of rape and sexual assault and prostitution/trafficking, domestic violence, you know, those things really seem to be endless. So I just go, what have we been, you know, where did we go wrong? We haven't fixed this in 40 years.
No, we haven't, and we are hearing a little bit more, but you're right, then we hear about it, it's in the news for a while, then it fades away, then it goes away.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason. You're also working on a book. And is that connected with this, or in what way?
Yes, well, and I don't think I explained it very well, so let me try to do better.
Yeah.
The one wonderful thing about the whole project is that it's all online. Nobody will ever have to pay to see any of it. Okay. I'm not marketing it in any sense. So I'm making video that is online on YouTube, and I do have a website, unfinishedbusinessusa.com, where people can view everything. And so the video portion I conceive of as 15 chapters that are about half an hour each, which is huge, and I've only published 2 of those chapters yet. But in theory, on that same website, there is text that goes with each of those chapters. And the text is not just the script from the videos. The text is more of my personal opinions and more, you know, drawing in maybe a little poetry, other things. The videos are really much more interviews with other people. Although, you know me, Nadia, you know I have a few opinions of my own. But I really wanted to go and talk to people about what they see as the future and what they are doing now that might be innovative, with a particular focus, not just on younger women, because I'm a big advocate for older women being big thinkers, but also women of color, women with disabilities, just all those people who haven't been heard from. I've been traveling the country, and I've been to 8 states, and I've interviewed 36 women so far.
Has that been in the last year or two, or how long?
2 years I've been working on it.
You've been busy.
I know, it's crazy. And part of that has been to get outside of New York City and Washington, D.C., where most of this stuff emanates from. You know, there have been wonderful PBS specials where we talk to the feminist leaders of the country. You know what, they don't go to Arizona or New Hampshire or Kentucky, and I've been to all those places, so I really do think I'm getting a different perspective. And of course, you know, I'm such a Minnesota advocate that a lot of the exciting stuff has happened in Minnesota, and we really can serve as a model for so many things, so that's why my email has got Minnesota body. But back to the book issue, I've really only written one, you know, book chapter or e-book chapter, because it's all online. But that is a very interesting experience where I have to take what all these wonderful women are telling me and add my own thoughts and digest it a little bit differently, where the video, it's very interesting. The visuals are so important to me, and I get very distracted by just going, these women are just so great. Look at them, they're so beautiful and so smart. But some of maybe deeper thinking will emerge in the book, I don't know.
Well, and then adding your own thoughts and opinions to the ebook part. I think ebook's probably a good description of that. We'll give it kind of a 1-2 punch with the whole thing.
I think so. Well, and the other thing is that people absorb information differently.
Yes.
A lot of people really prefer video, and a lot of people prefer words, and I figure good to appeal. I also try to throw in some numbers from time to time.
Yeah.
I'm also discovering, because so many people are not going to sit and watch a half-hour program or read a book. I'm discovering making the trailers, the movie preview, the 2-minute version is actually quite fun of the videos, you know. So what is really the most compelling thing people said in 2 minutes or less is quite the exercise for me too.
And I have seen some of those clips. I've been to, well, your YouTube is a quick and easy place for me to get to, to see some of those, and I have been to the website too. So that's probably kind of fun to condense those pieces, or to pick out the best piece out of.
Yeah, fun and painful both.
Yeah.
As you know, you do a lot of video work.
I know it's all good, you don't want to cut anything out.
Exactly.
Well, and yeah, let's talk a little bit about how the mechanics of the project are going here. What are you, as far as getting the people together, getting that filming done, how much has that been, how monumental has that task been?
Well, it is monumental you know, so much of it is details that, you know, would be really boring to lots of people, but getting people to be in the same place at the same time and have enough of a crew to help with these things, because some people keep telling me I need to be on camera for lots of it too. I go, why don't I just film these people? But they say, no, you need to, you know, adapt as the questions flow and so on. Some of it I've just done in people's homes. It's been quite a range of settings. So
that gets tricky, but fun.
Yeah, just, well, seeing, you know, how people live is really interesting, in a number of offices. And then I often ask people to bring with them people, which really enriches the conversation, but also complicates the filming.
Yeah, it does.
So can I give 2 examples?
Oh, yeah.
One is in New Hampshire. They've created a wonderful, they ended up merging the Governor's Council on Women, an independent nonprofit women's lobby group, and soon going to add in the New Hampshire Women's Foundation, into a single entity called the New Hampshire Women's Initiative. And the board chair is a woman who is a huge businesswoman, has a graphic design firm. So she came and sat, she has a beautiful red couch in her design office, and she brought 2 young women who are the other staff of this thing. So I interviewed all 3 of them together and got really a huge range of perspectives. But again, trying to get all three people on the couch
Yeah.
and me
Yeah.
was kind of tricky. I had a wonderful young camera woman with me for that interview from McAllister College here, Olivia Wolf.
Oh, I know her. Yeah.
Yeah, Olivia helps us on our other show.
Yeah.
And, you know, so I do have a number of camera angles, but that also makes the editing harder.
Yes.
You have a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
Then in New York City, similarly, Liz Abzug, who is the daughter of Bella Abzug.
I recognize the
people have
last
heard of,
name.
former
Yeah.
congresswoman
Yeah.
and huge feminist leader from the 70s. Liz is carrying on her mom's legacy with something called the Bella Abzug Leadership Institute. And she brought with her 2 young graduates from the Institute. These young women of color who are just, you know, raring to get out there and change the world. And again, in a very tiny office she had in Manhattan where we somehow squished in, and I'd lost the tripod by that time, so I'm like balancing the camera on top of a suitcase. But, you know, so it's a lot of work, all those little details. Not to mention the editing is hours and hours of work, as you know.
I like that part, but not everybody does. And it is a lot of work and takes time.
Exactly. But that power of choosing which pieces to put on and how to make those people look as beautiful as they really are is quite fun.
Yeah, it really is. Well, and did you say you had 2 examples, or did we go through?
I did 2.
Yeah, all right.
New Hampshire and Manhattan.
Kind of ran together in my mind.
I love making lists.
I do too. Well, now over the last 40 years, have there been any major changes other than, like you say, a kind of a winding down of the momentum of the movement?
Right. Well, and you know, good things have continued to happen in the last 10 years too, which I've described as stagnant. But obviously, it is night and day from what life was in the 1970s when I was a clerk typist too in state government employment. Women have so much more education and so much more access to jobs, to a huge variety of jobs. So more women judges, more women in elective office, you know, the women CEOs who are writing these amazing books now, women starting their own businesses.
Women getting onto a board of directors, which didn't used to happen.
Right. Yeah. And even the, you know, women movie stars as action heroes, you know, as superstars, as CEOs in the movies. So we've had this huge culture change, which has done enormous amount of good.
Yeah.
It's just that the movies are kind of ahead of real life still. Still, the vast majority of women are working in clerical jobs, home health aides, personal care attendants, cashiers, you know, those sorts of jobs that really do not pay well. And I'm an advocate for those jobs. I mean, where would we be without those people doing that work that keeps us all alive? But we really need to provide health insurance and decent pay and all those things. So those are the problems. In elected office, women are still, I believe it's less than a third of people in Congress. That's about right for the Minnesota legislature. We've never had a woman governor in Minnesota.
No, we haven't. No.
So by the same token, I think the thinking has evolved that, you know, we're still fighting for equality. We still don't have an equal rights amendment. But I think more and more women are also saying, I might not want to fit that male pattern. I don't necessarily want to claw my way to the top of the ladder and be the CEO of General Motors. Maybe what we're really after is transformation. You know, we really want to change the whole world to be a more woman-friendly and child-friendly and people-friendly place.
And be able to make those choices and feel good about whatever choice that you do make.
Right.
I like that
and
idea.
I think we've made inroads on that too.
Yeah.
But that's again why I think there just needs to be more conversation about what really are our goals as individuals, as a movement, moving forward. Can I also throw in this issue about why did I say the American women's movement?
Oh, yeah.
So many people I talk to say, well, what about the women in Nigeria or India or, you know, wherever? And of course, those women are facing huge challenges, bigger in many ways than the challenges we face on a daily basis.
A lot farther behind in many cases.
But I've got to say, they're working harder at change than we are in this country. That again, partly because we're so fragmented in so many different states, and partly because there's this regressive anti-woman wave going on, I think.
And country by country, it's got to be different.
Right. But in this country, we're kind of resting on our laurels and saying, well, we're the greatest democracy in the world. Everything's great, except for all the ways it isn't great for women.
Yeah, exactly. Is there Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to be sure to get in? Have we covered most of the things?
Maybe just that I mentioned the website, the
Yeah,
blog,
okay,
really,
yeah.
and really want to encourage people to send comments there or contact me in any way, because I really, the number one goal is to engage more people in this conversation, and I want to hear about other people's ideas and innovations and what's not working, and how do you feel about that? You know, when you read these, you know, lean in that says if women just focus a little more, it'll all take care of itself.
So you're actively engaged, involved with the website, so if someone sends comments in the comments.
Yeah, easy enough to comment there.
Yeah, and it's read and you see those, because sometimes you go to websites and you think, why make a comment? No one's ever going to read this.
Oh yeah,
So.
no, I watch that like a hawk.
Good.
Or invite me to your state to come and talk to a little group of women who've thought up a innovative way to fight street harassment. You know, I really love to go.
And say that website name again.
Unfinishedbusinessusa.com.
Bonnie, thank you.
Thanks,
this
Nadia.
has been so great. We need
You're
more
great.
women like you.
Oh.
I want to show you something easy and reasonably quick to make in the kitchen. It's spaghetti squash Alfredo. It's a great substitute for pasta and you don't lose anything in taste. It's also gluten-free. I don't have any restrictions on gluten in my diet. I don't eat gluten-free because I have to, but there are a lot of foods and recipes you can make that are gluten-free that are every bit as good as anything else that you might want to make. This is one of those. Now, this is a spaghetti squash that I had halved, taken out the seeds out of the middle, rubbed with a little bit of butter, and it was baking in the oven at 400 degrees for about an hour. After that, it came out of the oven and sat here for 20 minutes, just so that it's cool enough that I can handle it, but it is still hot. Now, I want to show you what I do next. Get this spaghetti squash up here and shred out. Let's see if I'll turn this a little bit so you can see. Look at that. Shred and loosen the spaghetti. Now I'm going to bake this again. There's going to be a second bake on this right in the shell, so I'm not going to remove it completely. I just want to loosen it so that it will take the sauce. So as you see, I'm loosening these. That looks beautiful. All right, now the next thing I will do here, I have my Alfredo sauce that is essentially a mixture of, and I will put the ingredients on the screen for you, but it's a mixture of Neuchâtel cheese, which is a lower fat cheese, a little bit of half and half, some onion and garlic sauteed in a mixture of oil and butter, and a little salt and pepper. This is the Alfredo sauce, which goes into this mixture. And it probably only took me 5 minutes to make up this Alfredo sauce, because you don't boil it or anything like that. You just saute the onions, add the garlic towards the end, and cook that a little bit. I'm going to work this Alfredo sauce down into the squash noodles. And of course, this is going back into the oven, and when I do that, it's going to melt a little bit more and soak down into the squash noodles. This is a generous serving for 2 people. If you're wondering where the other half of this squash is, we cooked it last night for dinner, And all we did with that was bake it in the oven, just like I mentioned to you, for about an hour, and pulled apart the noodles, added a little bit of butter, salt, and pepper, and we were good to go. Okay, now the only thing I will do now to this is add a sprinkling. Oh, I like that to just be a little bit more even in here. I want it to look good when it comes out of the oven. Parmesan cheese across the top. And it goes back into the oven for, oh, I don't know. I don't think it's going to take very long. 20 minutes, something like that, until it gets golden on the top and it looks finished. You could even, since it's still hot and warm and everything is warm, you could even finish it off in the broiler and it would be good to go that way. But I'm going to bake it. I'll be back as soon as that's finished and ready to go. Oh yes, this is done, hot, gorgeous. Look at that. It's getting golden on the top, bubbling around the edges. That's exactly what you want. Now, a couple of things I like to do. I might put a little bit of green vegetable in with this, or as most often, I might sprinkle a little leftover cooked shredded kale to the dish and have that along with. You could use green beans or broccoli. That would be all right. And you could even have meat with this or in this. I don't ever do that. But this is the final dish and it is wonderful. I'm going to give you just another quick look at that now. And this will have to sit for 5, 10, 15 minutes before it's cool enough to eat. I hope you try it.